Yes. Yes, the Lord bless those seeds. We are going to see God's faithfulness in ways we never thought possible. How many love surprises? Yes. We all love, well, we'd maybe not like to be surprised, but we like surprises. Both. There you go. Well, in just a minute, you are going to be blessed. As John said, you're still hungry. Well, we're going to get filled up. We're going to have a report from our team that went to New Mexico. They have some exciting things to share. Our kids are lit up, and they want to impart that to you. There's some good things. They've got some slides they're going to show you about their ministry. More than that, don't just watch. You are an active participant in what's going to happen this morning. Say, I'm an active participant. I'm not watching. I'm ready to receive. And what I receive, I'm going to be ready to give. All right, one last word, and I will turn it over. Last week, we introduced the whole concept of taking this summer to do a digital detox. And there's quiet in the room. Because all the digital addicts' eyes are starting to glaze over. Let's admit it. We spend way too much time with devices and not enough time with the Word. So I'm making a declaration that this is going to be a summer of digital detox. And we are going to put down the device and we're going to pick up the book. You know, we need to have the touch and the feel of reality. You know, I love digital screens, I love technology, but there needs to be a reality. Otherwise, we are turning humanity into a virtual humanity. That we can live life through a little screen or a box. God wants His Word to be touched, to be seen, so it can become part of our real world. So how many have a real Bible? Woo! Yes! How many need a real Bible? I've got some real Bibles. If you need a real Bible, come see me. There's lots of different kinds of Bibles, but everybody needs a Bible. So here's a challenge. In about 3 months, 90 days from now to the end of the summer, after Labor Day sometime, that we are going to do a digital detox and we're going to create new habits, new ways of doing life. So one of the things you're going to do to create a new habit is you can still bring your phone or your device, but you're going to bring a real Bible to church. Yes? Yes! Well, I don't know if I can carry that in my... Come on. Yes, I don't care how big it is. Pocket-sized Bible. Get a travel one. Get something you can touch. Get a page you can turn and bring a pen or a highlighter, something you can scribble notes with. I've gone through so many Bibles because I can't read them anymore. But that's a good thing because it reminds me of God's faithfulness. And our goal is that by the end of this summer, we've created new habits, new pathways, new neural pathways in our brain. So we're living in the real world as well as a digital world. So we could be real people, touching real people. But our goal is to have each one, reach one, and learn how to teach one. Say it. Each one, reach one, learn how to teach one. Along with the book, I encourage you, because you're going to have lots of extra time, to pick up a good book. And we have some authors in our midst. Mike, are you here? Mike Smith? He's not here. Mike Bagusha, are you here? There's Bagusha right there. Mike and Bagusha. But Mike has written a book. It's called Leap, Transforming Your Workplace for Jesus. If you want to be encouraged to take this summer to see how you can impact your workplace with miracle signs and wonders, get this book. I believe it's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. You can see Mike. It probably has copies of it. But you're not going to be looking at your phone for hours on end. You're not going to be doing social media streaming and swiping. You're going to be reading, right? So get a good book. Also, if you want something a little more lighthearted, because sometimes we just need to bring some levity into our life, some freedom. Joy, where's Joy? Palmer. Yep, there's Joy. Joy, yes, Joy has a bunch of books here. They're all kind of this theme of good, wholesome relationships, how life works. But this one I'm holding up is called Love, Lace, and Minor Alterations. She has 3 books, and Angel read them all. They're so good. Keep going. They're so good. Are these available on Amazon? They're available on Amazon. And I know there's some authors sitting in this room who would love to have their books read. So if you are an author and you have a manuscript and you want us to read it, then let us know, and we're going to read, because we're going to have lots of time to read this summer. We're going to create new habits. Now, last thing I want to share. is an invitation to grow your heart in appreciation for what this book is. On June 13th, June 20th, and 27th, it's a Monday night, 6:45, going to be presenting how to handle this book. What is it? What isn't it? How to understand where it came from, how to understand how to use it, how to understand how to study it, how to read it. Because if we don't know how to use the sword of the Spirit, that's what this is called, then we are missing one of the greatest weapons that God has given us over doubt, depression, fear, sin, any foe that comes against us. If you don't have a weapon, you are vulnerable to attack. And many believers keep this in safe location but have no idea how to wield it. So if you are remotely interested in growing in appreciation for this book, I challenge you, I dare you to show up, because you're not going to be on your phones, so you're going to be looking for something to do. I dare you to come for 3 weeks in a row and let God give you a new appreciation for what this book really is. Bring your questions, bring your skepticism, bring all the things that you need to have answered, and we will make sure we take time to do it. So take the challenge. I'm not going to ask for hands. This is between you and God, but I encourage you, and I put it out there. This is the time to get equipped. We're living in a world that will run roughshod over people who don't know who they are. There's steamrollers out there that are just bowling things down, and we just watch and cringe in horror. It is time to be equipped. It is time for the body of Christ to know what you believe and why you believe it. Amen? Well, come on, kids, and Jimmy and Angelie. They are going to share some amazing things. What God has done. Yes, we bless them.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, dream team right here. Did you guys say hi? Hi. Hey. And there's Jimmy. Do you want us to smile? Just kidding. Smile for the camera. Well, I feel like we haven't been here in forever, but okay, so we went, where did we go? New Mexico, yes, Mescalero, to the Mescalero Apache Reservation in New Mexico. We went May 9th to the 22nd. So this was a pretty large undertaking for a lot of these kids to be away for that long. It was amazing. It was amazing. This was Epic Christian Academy's first mission trip for the 8th graders, so this was also a very, oh, hi guys. This was a very, it's just part of the pioneering process, so we're kind of like, but let me tell you how this went down, because this was amazing. So, in our dream world for Kevin and I, we're like, yes, we're gonna take 8th graders on a mission trip. And then we're like knocking on doors, and and I've given the parents my word that we're gonna do this. And November comes, December comes, and then January hits, and I'm like, we are gonna do this. I don't know where. And in our hearts, we've carried the First Nations people, and so we were like, oh God, this would be amazing if we could do something with that. But then also, as the year was going on, I was really feeling like our 8th graders needed to rub shoulders with other 8th graders. And so I'm like carrying these two things and not seeing where that opportunity was going to take place. But my husband goes out to Bethel for a Kingdom Education Conference out in January. And he spends some time with their Christian school out at Bethel, and happens to be in the 8th grade classroom and rubbing shoulders with the 8th grade teacher there, and she's sharing what they're doing for their missions trip. So being the bold, courageous visionary of a husband that I have, he has the audacity to ask her, hey, any chance we could join you? And they were like, wow, we haven't done that before. We'll have to pray about it. Long story short, they really felt God on it. And this is a school that has been, they are a well-oiled machine. So they've been doing it. And so there were 15 other Bethel students, 8th grade students, that we got to partner with to go down there. It was awesome. It was awesome. So thank you, Kev, for being so audaciously zealous for going after the visions. And then, so that was a yes, and then we presented it to all of these students, and guess what? They had to give their yes. And that was not easy for some, because that's a long time to be away from home and very far from home. So let's just, you guys want to start with, so we were talking, and this is not like, they have had, plenty of opportunities, especially on the trip, where they had to present, get ready to present. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to ask you to do one more thing where you have to get ready to present. We just kind of want to do a living room conversation with family of just sharing the journey, if that's okay. So let's just start off with, the PowerPoint that you guys put together.
Okay, well, this first slide is just basically like when we were at the airport and like all the different places we went. We went into like to Boston and El Paso, and eventually got to New Mexico with the Mescalero reservation. Yeah, so these are just some pictures of us on the way. Yeah.
On the first day, we went to White Sands, New Mexico, and we did a group thing with the Bethel team, and we just had a fun time at White Sands.
The White Sands are like 275 square miles of just pure white sand dunes. So we got to go there, and that was really cool, and it looked like snow. It was really fun.
And then this is where we stayed. It was really nice. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the so the White Sands was on the drive to the Mescalero Apache Reservation. It was really neat. It's in the middle of nowhere, so you're just kind of driving in the desert. There's no water. It's not surrounded by water. It's just this amazing phenomena where there's just pure white sand right there in the middle of the desert, and because of the weather pattern, it creates dunes that I actually have. We don't have this, but I had video of Seda just rolling down the the hills with some buddies, and it was just, they're the sand dunes, and yeah, and so then when we got to the Apache Reservation, we stayed at the Inn of the Mountain Gods, which the Apaches are how many tribes?
Three.
Three tribes. Do you remember what they are?
Pinta?
The Chiricahua, Mescalero, and Lipan.
Yeah, there are three different tribes that during the kind of reservation movement. Actually, let's take a little detour here, because Kevin and I have a huge heart for First Nations people, and in embarking on this, we actually did a kind of a okay. Before even talking about any of this, what do you know? What do you know about First Nations? Oh, sorry. Hi, you're back. Sorry. We kind of just asked them, what do you know about First Nations people? What do you want to know? So, actually, for you guys, any idea how many First Nations tribes we have in America, in the United States? Just out of curiosity. 12? 32? 300? 25? 574. 574 tribes. Yeah. And so it was actually, so we actually spent a couple of weeks just diving into sort of Native American history and just who are they, and so the Apache are three tribes that during the reservation movement with westward expansion, the three tribes were kind of in the Arizona, New Mexico area, given a pretty large plot of land that over time shrunk to now it's 463,000 acres. Beautiful land. We were at 7,500 feet. So we were kind of at an elevation. There was a little bit of an adjustment there. But it was just rolling hills, but deserty also at the same time. Just beautiful, beautiful land, beautiful people. Now, some of our tribes have casinos on their tribes, which kind of help bring in some income honestly, because if you know about First Nations people, the situation on the reservations is a lot of poverty. And the kids will tell you a little bit more about that. So the Apache are one that does have a casino. And so we actually stayed there as part of sewing into their tribe. So that's the place. Keep going.
Okay. So on our first 2 days there, we spent the first 2 days planting rose bushes for people who had died. And there were a lot of people. This is when we were planting them. And on the next slide, those are about a third of the rose bushes that we planted. And it was because the 19 of us split up into 3 groups and were able to plant rose bushes for all day for 2 days. And typically, the person who died would not have died from old age. It was typically from suicide or failure of the liver because of alcoholism. And there's some who had on the bottom left, there's an old lady who had 7 of her siblings die. So those are all names of people who died. Yeah.
Okay. So we did groups, and I was in a different group than all these guys. And we planted at one house, we were planting rose bushes, and there was one house that we planted, we did rocks, and there was 9 rocks, so 9 people died, and there was only 2 people left in the family, and that really opened up my eyes to see how I should be thankful for what I have. And the house was so poor, everywhere was so poor, but it really opened up my eyes. But yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. It wasn't that hard of work either, but we blessed a lot of people. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. Okay. All right. It's not that much, but I guess it went, what would the word be? Viral. Oh, it went viral, I guess. Sorry. It went viral on the internet, and a lot of people are just thanking us for doing that. Yeah, that's it. But
Which ended up just being actually a real open door, because at first it was just it could feel like you're just doing a really just nice posture, nice thing that you're doing. But first of all, when we went and we planted and the kids were really able to see that there's a lot of grief there because of so many of the people that we were planting for were deaths due to suicide or addiction. If there was a family home or members of the family home, we ministered to them. We prayed for them, prophesied over them. If they weren't, I know your group surrounded the house and was just had anointing oil and were praying. So the kids were so just ministering, and we really just believed it was a prophetic act of God just bringing beauty for ashes. So just claiming that Isaiah 61 as what we were doing for these homes, and the people were so incredibly appreciative. It was kind of neat. He says it wasn't hard work. Well, our team, it was funny. We we're trying to let the kids do the work. Well, I wasn't doing anything, but we're trying to the men. I had one job, and that was to make it look pretty. Because the guys are like, we're done. I was like, oh God, there's dirt everywhere. Let's make it look pretty. But that we had this one dad that's just because it's not soil, it's clay. So it's funny that you didn't think it was hard work, because they were, and then they were. You had the dads. Well, Cohen, come here. I want to highlight this part because, and then we switched over, and at the end, a couple of they were like, "Let's let the ladies do it," and they give it this tool to Olivia, and she's like, "There's no way," but the dad was just like, "You're gonna try," so she's pushing it, and she made a dent in the ground. We're like, "Yeah!" You did something, but it was hard, grueling work, and one of the things, and you might see a picture of him, but this was really beautiful. Cohen was in a group with the leader of this. His name was Jilmar. He lives on the Apache res, and I didn't know anything. And honestly, we don't know a lot of the testimonies that happened on the trip. To be honest, we only know what we firsthand experienced. But we split up. Went to 2 different churches. And we still don't know all the different testimonies. So, but a couple days later, we're at this home of I'm telling it. Yeah. Come on, it's the sweetest thing. I love it. It did happen. I was there. Anyways, we're leaving. We're getting ready to leave. It was one of our last days, and I know Cohen. Oh, it's just awesome. Please.
There's a picture of Jamar.
Okay, I'll wait till we get there.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's not that one. But anyway.
That's okay. Well, I'll just share it right now, anyways, because we're right there. But so the leader was Jilmar, and so we're saying goodbye to the family, and we weren't going to see him the next day, and so we're walking away, and Cohen's just like. He's literally like his eyes are filled with tears and stuff. Like I'm like, oh, what's up, buddy? He's like, I didn't get to say bye to Jilmar, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, well, sorry, buddy, kind of a thing. And he was like, just pretty upset about it. And the next day, it's like the first thing that when I see him in the morning, he's just like, I can't believe I didn't get to say goodbye to Jilmar. And so I'm talking to somebody else that's in the group, one of the other chaperones, and they told me that Jilmar actually spent the 2 days with the boys, walking them through the process of, he really the word that they used was that he fathered them for those 2 days, just teaching them how to dig in the dirt and do that process themselves, and I just thought that was really, really, really awesome and so tender. And then then we went and we found Jilmar, and he got to say goodbye to Jilmar. So it was really awesome. Okay. Why don't you say something? Oh, Olivia, why don't you say something? Yes, you say
Oh, this. Okay.
And then one of the days we went and cleaned churches, and in the bottom left picture, that's some of us girls wiping down benches. And then the upper left, we cleaned out a baptismal because there was going to be a baptism that Sunday. The baptismal was in a river, and we had to rebuild the walls with rocks. And then these 2 pictures over here are us finding river rocks for the rose bushes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the baptismal place was covered in branches and a bunch of rocks and stuff, so we had to clean all that out. And then some group built back up the dam to make sure that the river was deep for the baptism. And there were some kind of trash, and there was a metal rod in the river that we had to take out and stuff. And yeah.
So these were after we were cleaning the churches, and after we cleaned them, we prayed for them, and we just.
Come on, you don't give the nitty-gritty details. I gotta so this was awesome. So one, getting a bunch of teenagers to clean was, that was part of it's funny, and they were cleaning, they were having to clean. I don't think we have pictures on this, but Sam and Cohen's job in this massive cathedral, it's huge. It's this Catholic church. They got the job of cleaning up bat poop. So I have the cutest picture of both of them, turn around, you guys, and they're like, but they did it, and they did it well. And so the guy on the bottom was this, he moved to Apache, he was a Franciscan monk. And it was really neat. It was really neat. He actually wanted to talk to all the kids and talk to them about the church. And then the kids served him and cleaned the church. And then they went to go just bless him. And he was so undone after they prayed for him. He was so blessed that teenagers would just bless him to that capacity, and you could just totally feel the presence of God. And the same with that pastor, that was at an Assemblies of God church, and they cleaned every square inch of that church. Is really neat. we got to pick our groups as chaperones for that. We were in the race to kind of pick kids on, and you know who I picked first for my team? I did. I picked Sam. You volunteered to do the bathrooms, actually. I picked Sam because you won't know this about Sam, but he is a very hard worker and a great cleaner. So I picked him, and that was awesome. And then I said, all right, what part of this do you want to do? And it could have been like dusting, mopping, and stuff. He chose to do the bathrooms with another boy. Anyways, it was pretty awesome. I know. But Cohen's team won it, though. They cleaned. It was a competition. Their team won the competition for cleaning it. It was probably because of Cohen, because he's such a great cleaner. But anyways, the trip was full of, we didn't know we were going to be doing service projects like that, but those kinds of opportunities just came up to bless the churches there. Okay, why don't you go to the next slide? Oh, that's just, yeah, that was just a, oh, and I know. For all the dog lovers, oh, they tried. Olivia tried to, right, Al and Gina? She tried really hard to bring one of those home. And I said, have you thought through this, Olivia? Have you thought through our trip back, the night in the hotel? Who's going to be taking the dog? Did you think through that? No, but it's so cute. I just want to do it. Wow. That's funny. Those were our host homes. They're little res dog. If you've ever been on a res dogs, not as mangy as in Hopi, but res dogs. And those were res dog babies right there. Which I was like, we're not taking any of those home. But all right, you guys want to go? Oh, here, let's do.
Okay, this is in their traditionally, there's a girl from like 11 to 17, and she has to go through like a rite of passage ceremony. And so in the middle picture is a girl. She's already done hers, but that's what she has to wear. It's a white buckskin dress with like tassels, and the ceremony goes on for 4 days. The first day it represents infanthood, then like teenage or / like kid. Then the third one's adult, and the fourth one is an elder. And during these days, there are like, she has to dance, like in the night, she has to dance. And on the last night, she has to dance all the way through the night. And there are also like that, that sculpture, crown dancer. He's a crown dancer, and there's 5 of those. And we got to see it in person, but we weren't allowed to take pictures because it was so sacred. So this is just a model of that. And there'll be 5 of them. One's a little boy, and he's dressed up in all white. And they'll like circle around the fire, and we got to witness that, which was really cool. And there's also a traditional food, an Indian taco, that we got to have multiple times, and it was really good. And so yeah, that's just like a bunch of traditional stuff.
Do you want to say anything about that? Do you guys want to say anything else about that? Yeah, go for it.
Okay. The dress that the girl wore was like 50 pounds or something, and then she had like, what was it, the 4th day when she had to run?
No, that was just the first day that we went.
No, the last day.
Oh, the 4th day.
Yeah. So on the 4th.
How about the first day though, where we saw her run?
Okay. So on the first day, we watched one of the girls do her ceremony, and she had to there was a basket, and it was. Did they start off? Yeah. Oh. Me? Sure. Okay. Yeah, and then the girl would like run. Yeah, and she'd run around the basket, and then she'd come back, and then they'd move it out farther. You don't have to do it again. Oh, they'd move it in closer, and then they moved it in closer, and the dress was really heavy, and she fell, like she tripped and fell. Yeah, and but everybody, which was cool. All the like the elders and stuff told her to get back up, like it is in life. Like if she like fell, to get back up and stuff. But yeah, that was the first day. And then on the last day, she'd run with her dress on as far as she could into the woods, but she'd have to make it back. So Yeah, so she could run like a couple miles, but she'd have to get back.
So this was actually just a beautiful part of their culture of a coming of age ceremony. And so part of this, so she has like a medicine man and a medicine woman who spend the whole entire time with her. They never leave her side, and they coach her and they teach her and they impart wisdom to her. Which, so if you can like kind of take off any sort of thinking about just the beauty of that and the sort of the wisdom that's in that. So they're telling her like, you know, just all the things that she needs to know to be successful as a woman. And so when she would run, when we witnessed this on the morning of, it was a very early morning, and they have it set up where there's a big teepee, and part of this process is she has to go out in preparation of this to go get wood, strip wood, and build the teepees. She can get help, but there's a preparation, and all of it is to let her help her to walk through challenges, allowing her to see that she can do it, and she's not meant to do it alone. So really, really beautiful. And so in this part that we got to witness, there's a teepee right there. She's surrounded by people, the medicine woman and the medicine man right there. She gets ready to run, and her family and community is all here. The sun is coming up right here. We couldn't block the sun. Like the sun is just radiating on her, and she has to make this journey. Now we had heard about this, and we're like, okay, great, big deal. But watching her do it was just like, wow, that is a big deal. I mean, that thing was so heavy. You could see her thinking about every step, and she made the first one, and then they would adjust her. The medicine woman and the medicine man would, adjust anything that needed to be adjusted, and if they fell, the community immediately just rallies and just says, get up, get up. They don't let her wallow in that, but they just, encourage her to get up. And so anyways, just really, really cool, beautiful parts.
There's some other couple cool traditions, like she's not, like on the first day she gets I think it's the first day, she gets a bath, but then after that, she's not allowed to touch water for the full 4 days. So even drinking it, she has to drink through a reed, like a hollow reed, and not let water touch her. She's also not allowed to like touch herself. Like she's not, if she has an itch, she's not allowed to scratch it. So she has like a little wooden scratcher basically, and that'll scratch her. And then there's also a bag of pollen, and pollen is pretty sacred in their culture, and they'll take that pollen and they'll like bless them on like their. Yeah, and people will come from all over just to have that girl pray for them, because they say that during those 4 days she's like very spiritually like awake basically, kind of. So they'll come to her and like ask for her to pray for them and to bless them. Yeah.
And no matter what your thoughts on that, there actually is a high level, which we realized in this trip. The people, like the Native people, like they highly value prayers from young people. That was awesome. It's just like if Jimmy and I wanted to pray, it's like, it's fine. But if the young people want to pray, they're like, pray for us, which was really, really beautiful, actually. And maybe we'll share more on that later, because we're going to get into more of... Okay, that's just a museum. Yeah, let's cruise through so we get to some testimonies. Oh, there's Jomar and Cohen right there. That was like... And actually, so this woman right here, her name's Kim. Very cool. She was one of our hosts. So she and her sister hosted us. Her sister went out to BSSM, Bethel School of Ministry, and did 3 years. So it was really, really neat to see an Apache, just spirit-filled, on-fire woman who's very influential in her community. That was really, this family is really awesome. They actually trace back to their great-great-grandfather was Naichi and Cochise that ran with Geronimo, if you know anything about Geronimo, where he was like the Apaches, he was super, super stealth. They were one of the last tribes to surrender to the U.S. government. And so they have a really neat legacy right there. And that's their son. Really cute. Oh, what are you guys doing here? This is one of my favorite parts. Here we go.
On Sunday night, we went to a small church, and we preached our messages, and it was only like a small group of us. Yeah, and then the one on the right, the far right, is us at another church on the last day, and all of us were up there.
Okay, so we're gonna park here for a second. We are not at all going in chronological order because it was so chock full, and I feel like we had so very little free time. We were always doing something, but this is actually one of the first nights. I think this was our first Sunday night that we were there. So we had gotten there Saturday, and then boom, it was like Sunday morning. You guys are ministering. What happened Sunday morning? We were at the Mescalero Reformed Church. Bunch of kids preached. None of these guys preached that morning, but they did minister. We brought a bunch of kids, a bunch of people came up for ministry. Anyone want to share about the girl?
Okay. So after everyone had finished preaching, we asked the people, like all the 8th graders went to the front. Oh, another thing about that is during that church service, what was really cool was during their worship, like when they were singing, they didn't just sing in English, they also sang in their native language. Which was cool. But after that, we asked people to come up and the 8th graders would pray for them. And so then towards the end, Mrs. Vicky called me, Olivia, and a couple other girls to come pray for this person. And her name was Winter. And she was looking down and she was suicidal. And her wrists were yeah. And so we came up and we prayed for her, and she was looking down, and her hair was falling over her face, so I didn't even get to see what she looked like. But she was crying and at a bunch, and we declared stuff over her and everything, and we were there for a while, and then eventually we asked her if she'd accept Jesus in her heart, and she whispered yes.
Okay, so the cool story about that was this. Okay, so much like, when you have a bunch of people and anybody who wants to come up and come up for prayer, well, people weren't coming up. So I started going gathering. I'm like, we're on a mission trip. Our kids are going to pray for people. We're going to get her done. All right, so we start gathering people, bringing them up. Well, there was a guy that was really highlighted to me, young guy. So I go up to him, and he was so I was just like, hey, do you want, you're super highlighted to me. Can I get a bunch of people to pray for you? And he was just like, no. I'm not really, really just seemed like a young guy. But then the girl that was with him was just like, yes, he needs it. So I was like, awesome, great. So I get a bunch of the guys and Jimmy flood him, and they start praying for him, and it sounds like he was some really, really rough stuff. So they're ministering to him. And then I leave. Well, the girl that was with him follows me, and she taps me on the shoulder, and she's just like, can you pray for me? I'm like, absolutely. What is it? And she's, this is Winter. So that's really cool, because it was just the guy was highlighted, but it really wasn't about him. It was about the girl. And the girls, probably 45 minutes, they ministered to her, and it was phenomenal. They there was a moment when I just asked her if she'd ever received Jesus in her heart, and she was like, no. So then I just called on I'm like, all right, who wants to share the gospel, right? And it was so awesome, just kind of reiterating the fact that we got to teach our children how to be ready to share the gospel at that moment, because there were several moments where I'm like, you just sort of bring them up, and you want to receive Jesus? You want to hear about Jesus? Yeah, I do. All right, kids, who's going to share the gospel and be ready? And so this girl, Emily, this 8th grader, Emily, was just like, yes, I want to. And in her journal, in coming, getting ready for the trip, one of the things that she had shared was that she would love the opportunity to lead somebody to Jesus. And so it was very cool. So she did, and it was not easy ministry, but the girls just started spontaneous, just going around and just declaring things over her and and she's just a weeping, nasty puddle of bleh. There was so much snot coming out of her, but she received Jesus. And then we saw her. We came and did a youth ministry to their youth group. I don't know when, several nights later, and she was there, and her countenance was totally different. She looked like summer rather than winter. So, come on, let's go. I know, it was so amazing, so amazing. And the other cool thing is that church. I know, I got testimonies all day about you guys. is at that church was I went and I got the youth, a young couple that had been ministering, or they were heading up the youth team. And so I go over to them, and I'm just like, wow, I just feel like the fire of God's all over you guys. Like he wants you guys to get ministered. So I bring them up to a group of the boys. Sam's one of them, and they're all prophesying. And Sam's like, I just see the fire of God all over you guys. Like, just, yeah, you don't remember that? Oh, that's so good. Well, you did. You did. And it was so awesome. Well, it probably didn't mean anything because I had already told them that. And anyways, but this picture right here on the end, that was a totally different church. Oh, actually, before we go to that church, Sunday night preaching, we're leaving that out. All these kids preached.
Yeah, so Sunday night we got to go to this church. Was it Victory Calvary or Calvary? Victory Calvary. Just a tiny church. Was like 20 people there maybe-ish. But they were just super hungry for God and like just ready for anything we had for them. So yeah, these three got to preach that night, and they did awesome. Really, really awesome. They all stepped out, and Sam wasn't with us that night, but we actually went back to that church, and he got to preach there, and he did great. So we did the service. I kind of just facilitated things, and the kids preached, and then we were doing ministry time, and I'm going to set this up, and then I'm going to let Cohen share, because this is an amazing testimony. So there's this guy, when they start talking, walks in, stumbles in. There's this drunk guy that walked in, and he was just in a bad way, you could tell. And nobody was greeting him, and I was like, okay, what's up with this guy? And so you called him over, right? Angela called him over to sit next to her, and I didn't know she called him over. I thought he just sat down, so my guard went up a little bit, like, I hope this guy doesn't cause trouble. Nobody in the church is acknowledging him. Nobody's doing it, because you could tell he was a little bit messed up. It looked really rough. He looked like he was homeless. But Ange just started praying for him, and he was definitely getting touched throughout the service when the kids were talking. And then after, the boys just surrounded him and got to pray for him. But I'm going to let Cohen come up and share about this experience. This guy's his nickname was Bigfoot. But Cohen's going to... Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So he got his name because he was really drunk one time, and he dressed up as Bigfoot, and he went around scaring people, and then he got tranquilized by the police, and and because they thought he was a bear, and then
So needless to say, this guy had a reputation in the town or that area, so I'm pretty sure when he walked in, they knew who he was.
Yeah, so when we were preaching, he would say stuff like, I need that, or that's me. And then after, when we went up to pray for people, Mrs. Rigi told us to go pray for him. So it was, I think, 4 or 5 of us, and we just prayed for him, and he had suicidal thoughts, and he said that he was going to kill himself that night. And then something led him to that church. So he went, and then we just told him how much God loved him and stuff like that. And one of my friends gave him a word, and it was basically just saying that when he was going to give up, that God could help him through it, and that he could do anything through God.
Yeah, hold on. So this was like my favorite testimony on the trip. You know how this guy came in messed up.
people, you just kind of laying hands on them. Sure. You're kind of laying hands on them like this, and Cohen took it up to a whole different level. Like, he was like John Fauci. He was John Fauci all over this, like, just hugging him. And, and both Jimmy and I are just kind of checking in with him, like, are you okay? Are you okay? Because, like,
I was going to show them what he was doing.
oh, good, you're going to show them.
Yeah, I wanted to show you so this guy, do you remember what his real name was? I don't. Did you catch it? Thomas? Yeah. So at the end, these boys, I'm not kidding, spent probably close to an hour with this guy, taking turns. And this this is what he was doing to them. He was like this. Just literally had them in a headlock, holding their hand, and was like, oh, I love you guys. Thank you. I love you guys. And they were just like totally like, yeah, we love you, like praying for them. Like, Cohen did amazing. I just want to brag on him how amazing of a job he did. Coming into it, he was telling me, I don't know which sermon to preach, because I had two. He's like, which one do I do? I was like, I don't know. Ask God. What do you think? And God told you which one to do, right?
He told me to do the one on grace.
Yeah, and this guy, Thomas, when you preached that, he's like, I need that. So God totally spoke to Cohen, and he gave you a word for their church, right? Yeah. What did he tell you?
That they were on fire.
Yep. And then at the end during ministry time, tell him about the lady with the knee.
Oh, so earlier that day, I had told Jimmy that my knee was hurting, and he told me that it might be something from God. So that night when we went there was a lady, and she actually had knee problems.
And you should have seen how excited he was. He would come up to me, he's like, Jimmy, that lady has knee pain. He practically jumped over a row of chairs to lay his hands on her. But he just did so awesome. And I know you've never done that stuff before, right? Any of that stuff. And I think you figured out, like, you can do it, and God's with you, and it's fun, right? It's exciting. And that was really cool to see. So that was one of our favorite testimonies with Bigfoot. And what's really neat, that church, we were, one of the hosts were telling us that a while ago, that church had a revival meeting, and a drunk person walked in, and they called the cops on him to get rid of him. So to see kind of that be restored, and to show the church, this is how you respond to somebody like that, and then to see what happens, because the guy left sober. So it was pretty amazing.
And I want to highlight Olivia, because so I got the inside scoop because he was sitting right next to me, and so I could hear everything out of his mouth. And so it was so neat to see, in preparing the kids to do these sermons. Well, Jimmy prepared them to do the sermons, and just seeing the unknown of, we don't know how this is going to go or anything, to see them get up and preach their sermons, and to hear his response to each one of them. Because Cohen spoke on grace, you spoke on
God's acceptance.
And she used the prodigal son. And it was awesome hearing as she is just reading the scriptures of the prodigal son. And he's like, that's me, and it was beautiful. And she hadn't a clue. She's just sitting up there just doing, because she said yes to God. She's just, and then Seda came in and did your message on peace, which was beautiful, 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 beautiful. So it was awesome. Oh, did you? Can you hit it for just a second? Maybe it doesn't work. Oh, it doesn't work. Well, we went back to that church several nights later, and then it's fine. And Sam preached. That was the video of you. We were only going to play like 10 seconds. Anyways, so then Sam spoke that night, and that was amazing. He kicked it off. He was the first one to preach. Sam, what'd you preach on? God's love. God's love. And that was before the testimony of what we knew with their response to Bigfoot. And so he preached on love, and then several of the other kids came in, and they just, for whatever reason, all chose a sermon on forgiveness and kind of walking in forgiveness. It was very cool to see when we ask these teenagers to do something, which I'm wanting God to like further I have a heart for kids. You know that I have a heart for kids. But because they were asked to do the ministry, they were asked to do the preaching, they were asked to do everything. And we were asked to kind of stand back. And there was actually one time at Victory Chapel when the kids finished, they were like, hey, do you or Jimmy, can you guys give us a word? And I said, no. I said, no, but what we are going to do is we're going to pray. And we partnered in prayer with them. And it was just like, man, the fire of God just fell during that prayer time. And the kids were out like, we're like, where are they? They're like spontaneously went out and just were laying hands on everybody and things like that. They did the work of the ministry. It was amazing. Here we're at a church. This was on one of our last times. This church was called Blended Nations. Who wants to share about what you guys did there? Okay. And then you can share your testimony with the girl.
So at Blended Nations, what did we start off with? We
just worshiped and stuff.
Oh yeah, we worship. Their worship was cool. They were on a powwow drum, and they sang in their language and then in English, which was cool. And then we did worship on the drums and guitars and stuff. But after that, we went up and gave words. Oh, we went up and gave words to the whole church. We went just to see who ever had a word for the church or like a specific person, and we all gave words. And then we went into groups and prayed for people, whoever needed prayer. What about him?
I'll share. So there was so you might not know this again, because I was like getting all the inside scoop from people and then just send them off and they'd seal the deal. Yeah. Okay. So there was this guy, we don't have a picture of him. His name was Q. So he was a teen and kind of like real just rough around the edges, but he's just like this inner city teen, basically, is what he was kind of acted like. Well, we encountered him for the first time at White Sands. And I just want to connect the dots because then it came full circle here. But at White Sands, the guys are off playing football. I don't even know why you would do that in such hot weather in the sands, but they were doing that. They were off playing football. Well, this kid, he comes up to Sam full charge at him, and Sam, of course, probably not knowing what was going to happen. Oh, he said he would take it easy, but apparently, anyways. But long story short, is Sam took it, and which doesn't sound like a big deal, but I could tell after I saw Sam that probably hurt a lot. It was full on right to the chest, with all his might. But he instantly gave Sam respect. It was just this guy, everywhere you this guy, you gotta listen to. And so when we get back to Blended Nations at the end of the week, Q's there. And immediately you could see him recognize Sam, and he's like, oh, that guy. And Q was his whole demeanor was changed. He was just I'm standing there and he's watching the kids up there prophesying, and he's just I need buddies like that. I need people like that in my life. And I'm like, Q, why don't you go up there and get prayer? Who do you want prayer from? And he's like, I want prayer from Sam. I want prayer from, I want prayer from all the guys. And so all the guys surrounded him in prayer, and you've gotten to keep in touch, right?
Yeah.
You want to share anything about that?
Well, I've gotten to keep in touch with him and been talking to him since then. Yeah.
Yeah, because this guy's really influential. He's gonna influence for something. And so we were like, we'll take him for the kingdom. Thank you very much. All right, you guys, what else do you have?
Okay, so on Wednesday night, we went to a church, and we were supposed to be preaching our sermons. And all of us girls that were there, we got pulled into this back room, and there was this lady sitting there at the table, and she had dark bags under her eyes and stuff. We found out that she had been demon-possessed, and she didn't know it, and she had just realized it. So she was following like new agey stuff, and so we prayed for her, and then she was gonna get baptized that Sunday, and she was gonna be baptized in the baptismal that we had cleaned out. And she was wearing these necklaces, and she laid down on a table, and we just prayed for her, and we took her necklaces off. And then one of the other girls, she anointed them with anointing oil, and we gave the necklaces back to her. But when she took this necklace, she looked at it, and you could tell that she just had like this really bad connection with the necklace. So we took it from her, and then when we got back to the resort, we tied it to this rock, and then we made declarations over her and threw it into the pond.
Yeah, and something that was also really cool was a girl from the Bethel team, like had like a really powerful testimony where she had like kind of experienced some of the same things when she was younger, and so like she was like bawling with this lady, and so it was the first time she had ever shared that testimony, so it was really special to that girl too. Yeah. Yeah, she got delivered from demons.
So I wasn't there, but I talked to the chaperones that were there. And these girls did amazing. It was a full-on deliverance. And of course, they're telling you like it's a normal story because they have not experienced a full-on deliverance. This girl was demon-possessed. And they loved on her and spent over an hour with her in this room till she was set free. And I heard Seda had some just amazing prophetic words for her that were right on target. And I do want to come full circle. So that was an amazing story that they got to be a part of and just used mightily by God for that. Back at the Blended Nations, when we were all lined up giving words, Sade had a really cool word. Share that with your.
Okay. Well, so in the beginning of like while we were worshiping, Mrs. Yuki like took out her flags and was like dancing and stuff, and so then like this older lady like brings up this like young woman, and like the old lady takes out some like flags and starts dancing and like encourages the young lady to take them too. So she like chooses like just a tiny little flag, and she's like standing like this and like has her arm like this and like is like just and so and I think her shirt said something about like pain is I don't know, but it was pretty. Anyways, sorry. Okay. And then later on when we were called up to the front to prophesy, I was like the second person, and I said that she seemed like she had a lot of authority and stuff, but that she also like it was okay to let out a childlike silliness out of her, and that she doesn't have to be like perfect all the time. And I said that she acted as if she was like in the army or something like the. And then later on, I was told that she's gonna go to the Marines in a week. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So it was really cool. She had, all throughout the trip, actually really accurate prophetic words. They all did. Sam, for the tribal council, we have to wrap it up because our time is limited, and that is a bummer because we have so many testimonies for you. But that is a taste of anything else you guys are burning to share. No.
This wasn't in our group, but a girl named Naomi. I wasn't with her when this happened, but there was a person, and they were deaf in one ear, and so she asked if she could pray for them. And the first time she prayed, like nothing happened. So she's like, "Okay, let me pray for you again," and then nothing happened. And so she wanted to pray for her again. And at this point, I was told that like the lady, she was like laughing at her because she's like, "This isn't working." But the third or fourth time she prayed, the lady heard like her ear pop, and then she prayed for her again, and she was able to hear.
So awesome. One of the other really quick, like we got to go into the tribal council and pray for the tribal president, vice president and stuff, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but they are a sovereign nation. Therefore, they have their own government, so they're like a nation within a nation. So when you get to access their president and vice president, it's like you access Biden and Kamala Harris. Like, it is a big deal. And so we were in there in the tribal chamber where they, making declarations and stuff, all the teens. It was so awesome. Coming up here, you guys. And then Sam got pulled in. He was able to prophesy over the tribal president. And the president said, "It's like you guys are reading a book on me." So it was awesome. So I wish we could share more because there's more, but that was a foretaste. I just want to say that they really rose up. They preached, they ministered to people, they gave it all, they blessed a ton of people. We couldn't be prouder of how they did. It was amazing, and they developed. We didn't even get to this. They developed some amazing friendships, which. Yeah, is a whole nother testimony in and of itself. But oh yeah, you can see some of the friendships. And the guys got really close. That was really hard. But we're gonna believe that these are lifelong friendships that last. And I can speak as a mom that my son was changed on this trip, and he. Yeah. Anyways, why don't you close this off, Sam, and then.
Close off and what?
I don't know. Tell me how you were changed.
Oh, by, well, for what?
What did you realize about your walk with God?
Oh, so by meeting the people, I thought they were going to be like a lot more religious and stuff because they were from Bethel, I guess. But when we met them, they were all like us, and they were like goofy and funny and stuff. So it just showed me that God's more about friendship instead of religion, and yeah.
Yeah, right? Teenagers, yes, God is fun. God is fun. Yes, yeah. So. We would love to. I know it's late, and some of you probably have to go. But if you want to come up, the teens, Priscilla, come join us. Priscilla actually was on the home front because she's 7th grade. She didn't get to go. Come up here, Priscilla. Come on. And David and Pilot, they were on the home front praying. Priscilla led the prayer force on this realm and kept Epic up to date and everything, and was awesome. But if you'd like to come up, we'd love to go after healing. The teens said that they would love to go after healing. So if you need healing in your body, please let us pray for them. Oh, headaches. Several of them had headaches. One even called in saying, "I can't come today because I have a headache," of our 7th graders. If you have a headache, we want to pray for you because we want you to leave without a headache. Oh, awesome. Come on forward. And if you need healing for anything, if you just want to get revved up, Fire for the Nations, come see them. If you need boldness, they just stepped out in boldness massively, so that's theirs to impart and give away. If you want a word, ask them to give you a prophetic word. Put a demand on our teens because they've got the Holy Spirit. They're waiting to give it away, and we need to give them continual opportunities to give away their faith.
Amen. Yes, so if whoever needs ministry, come on up. If not, you're dismissed. Have a wonderful day. It is cake day. We have cupcakes out there, so please grab that on your way out. But seriously, come and get blessed by these teens. Amen.